All right, so it is 5:31 p.m. on Wednesday, April 3rd, and I am calling the Mashpee Public Schools Joint Student Advisory Committee School Committee meeting to order. First order is to, I think we need to establish quorum, but I think we have. We've got four, and you have quorum, so do you want to call your meeting to order as well?
Yeah, sure. We have to take a vote on that, right?
You don't have to, because we're not hybrid, so you can technically just say that you're calling it to order.
Yeah, now calling the March 3rd. April, sorry. Now calling the April 3rd, 2024 Student Advisory Committee / School Committee meeting to order.
Okay. And first item on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Mashpee Public Schools recognize and honor the many generations of Wampanoag people who live here and have been sustained in this territory for more than 10,000 years. Okay, so I know some of us don't have an agenda, but our next item is to ratify the agenda, so I will read it while we're waiting. We have public comment, which I believe we have one person here for tonight. We have the approval of the minutes from January 24th, 2024. We have the FY25 school committee schedule. It looks like it's a first read for us to discuss, and we wanted the students here because, are you a senior? Okay, we've got one junior here to weigh in on the dates.
I have an update. I got a text. Some of them, they're going to be here. They're just running a little late.
That's fine.
So if you see me running off.
That's the front door should be open, so if they don't go in the superintendent's, they should be open.
They're going to go to the superintendent.
Okay.
Can you text them back and ask them?
Then we have the April 8th Student Advisory Council School Committee drop-in meeting. Student Advisory Committee election plan for school year 24-25, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. We're going to discuss the summer retreat for the Student Advisory Committee and how that will look. We will talk about the charter review survey that is currently open, and then we will adjourn our public meeting to go into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel with no return to open session. So, now that we have copies of that, that's okay, I will entertain a motion to ratify the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Matt.
Can I second that? Or is it?
Because it's non-voting, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I would take
I
it,
really
but
want to second it.
I know you do.
Let's get it. Let's do it. No, I'll second.
Thank you, Dan. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call to vote. Dan?
I'm a yes.
Don? Matt?
Yes.
And I also am a yes. All right, and public comment. I believe we have Mr. Owls here today for public comment. I did a little, but for the record, you have 3 minutes for public comment.
That's
and if
fine.
you go beyond that, you're more than welcome, and I'm sure we would all be happy to read your comments in email form if you want to email them.
So my name is Carlos, Mashpee resident with 3 kids in Mashpee School District. Recently, my 11-year-old son was called some racial names, also called Fat Monkey. The student who called him the names was sent to the office, and later in the day, the student was able to go back to class. I was never notified by the school. Luckily, my son came home and spoke to me about. I never received a call or email from the school about the incident on that day. I emailed the principal and the superintendent that afternoon. I got a call from the principal the next morning, which at that point he failed to do the investigation correctly. He didn't know my son was a victim until that point. I didn't get a response from the superintendent. The same day, the next day on Wednesday, my kid was called Monkey. The kid was making monkey noise towards him and called the class back. Again, no communication from the school or the resource officer. I heard that some parents had the same issues in this district. Here's my question. So many kids go home and they don't have the courage to speak with their parents. and if they don't hear back, if the parents don't hear from the school. I understand that the school have a process and procedures in places, but why is the school not contacting the parents or doing the correct investigation? Both times happened in front of the teacher. I didn't get an email back from the superintendent or the committee, Kathy, into the, I went on Facebook and posted about. Magically, an hour later after the posters were online, I got an email back. More important, why is the superintendent ignoring the request to speak with me? I asked for a call, not email, call. Why can't we have a conversation and talk about the issues that happen in school? You guys really care about bullying and racism, or is just for show on social media? My son's case was resolved with a good outcome with the principal. My suggestion is listen to the parents as a public servant and talk about, have conversations with the parents, not ignoring for a request. Simple call for a simple conversation. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Okay. All right. So next, we have the approval of minutes from January 24th, 2024, which we held from our last meeting to this meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion we approve the minutes.
Thank you, Don.
I'll second.
Thank you, Matt. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll call to vote. Dan?
I will abstain.
Don?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
And I am also a yes. Okay. Next, the FY25 school committee schedule, which we should have attached here in our little packet. I kind of like this little 3-page packet. It feels nice. Not gonna lie. So I know some of us will not be here, some of us will be here, and we don't always know, and this is, you know, not always set in stone, but this is kind of the rough outline of our meetings. I would like to make one proposed suggestion and change is to collapse the student advisory committee into our regular meeting. So like that October 9th would go to the 16th, the 4th with the 18th, so that it's just not a separate meeting. Like it's just in our meeting and you guys are part of our whatever month meeting. And again, I know you guys can't see the future either. And there will be 2 new people on this student advisory committee next year with you ladies. And we will miss Andrew and Silas, but you guys can, you know, I'd like your opinion on that. If you're okay with being whoever the rep is, you know, like, it would be nice for you all to be at those meetings, I think, as opposed to having a separate one. But, and that's when we look at the Mass General Law, it doesn't say it has to be a separate one. And that's why I had it printed out to look at so that we could reference that for this discussion too.
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify. So
Yeah.
you're just saying move the student advisory committee meeting to the same as the next one, not have them come to every meeting?
So the chair of the student advisory committee would come to every meeting still. So whichever one of you, I'm assuming one of the 3 of you will be the chair. I'm looking at Paige, Mary Ellen, and Eve. But the whole, all 5 of you would only come on those every other. So yes, the chair of the student advisory committee comes to all, but you, all 5 would be, instead of it being a separate meeting.
So it's 5 less meetings for the chair.
It is 5 less
Yeah.
meetings, and that's,
For everyone.
and it's 5 less meetings for the committee as well, for us here as well. So, thoughts, comments?
So when you say combine them, do you mean like, would the, we have the agenda for
Mhm.
the student advisory committee, you have the agenda for the school committee meetings. Smush that all together?
Basically what we do at this meeting, except there'll be probably a little bit more school committee business.
Okay.
But I feel like having the 5 of you at those school committee business meetings is helpful, because there may be something that, I know there's times Andrew's spoken up and shared some really great insights, and I know he's likely conveying them back to you all as well. But I think having you at those, and I know they're slightly longer meetings, but we're working on that too, to make them not as long, to have your voices there as a whole body, as opposed to like these separate meetings, which are great, don't get me wrong, I love them. But I think if we put them together, it shortens how many meetings we all have to be at, and I think it gives you all a chance to really get even deeper into those conversations, as opposed to kind of that cursory level we're kind of still floating at, I feel like, but maybe it'll kind of, I think, get a little bit deeper into the discussions for those of you continuing on.
Definitely agree. I think that the experience of them going to, like, I don't want to say an actual meeting, because this is an actual meeting, but a more fleshed out school committee meeting would be very valuable for how we then handle our business in the future.
I agree. Any other thoughts? If you think it's a terrible idea, that's okay too. You can say that.
Plus you get to see the Coons kids like
Oh my
do
goodness,
their
it's so
own.
fun.
I shouldn't have said what that is.
They're cute.
Yeah, every school does a presentation to the school committee once a month, like it rotates. And they're all great, but the Coons ones are cute.
So I have two concerns. One being that just the timing, our meetings tend to have activities that take place and presentations that take place at the beginning of the meetings that tend to extend the time periods on and make them inherently longer meetings. So just a concern in regard to how late individuals would be tied up to be able to actively participate in the meeting versus like tonight. I heard people have to leave at a certain time. That doesn't work as conveniently if there's only a limited number of meetings. The other concern is I feel that these meetings are a little more quaint, and individuals tend to be more open for discussing things that are particularly relevant and on their minds, because I really believe this meeting is supposed to be oriented towards the advisory committee, not so much towards the school committee, at least in my opinion. So if you take that focus out, I just would be concerned that we might not get the feedback that we're looking for from the advisory committee, and I think that feedback is important, regardless of whether it's positive, negative, or in between. Just my thoughts.
Thank you for those thoughts, Don. I agree, the meetings do get lengthy, and I know there were concerns expressed about the length of the agendas, and I think, that is something we as a committee maybe need to look at, and I know we have our effectiveness and efficiency or working group, and maybe we need to convene that working group to kind of discuss ways. I mean, I have a few ideas, but, again, not knowing what the future holds for all of us, maybe we do need to bring that forward. I agree with your point that these do lead to more open conversations, but I also feel that not having this group of students at our bigger meeting precludes some of the conversations I feel they should be a part of and their voices should be included in. And I guess that's where I'm looking at it. I hear your concerns, they're valid, and I agree with them, but I guess Matt and Dan, if you have thoughts on those.
So yes, in my opinions, I do second some of what Don shared, but I also have kind of a little bit of a differing view. I think that it is also our responsibility to be prepared and be concise in our meetings and really come in with understanding what we're ready to talk about and what we want to cover on the topics on the agenda. So I agree. I think we do have some efficiency pieces that we can look at when it comes to even our own meetings outside of, including our school student advisory committee. I do see it in many ways from the lens that my viewpoint, the point of having a student advisory committee is to hear the voices. And Andrew, you have done nothing but a fabulous job of presenting and coming and being ready to have the discussions. But if we can integrate that in and make that voice, the voices, a part of the fabric of our typical school committee meetings, to, like you said, Kathy, to let them get to the meat of a lot of these really tedious conversations that we're having, I think that that's a benefit to us. And yeah, of course, would we all love to shed 5 meetings? Of course, but I think it's more about the quality of the discussions rather than the quantity.
I'd just like to echo the point that you said, because I do see a lot of what's going on in school, and I talk to a lot of people, but I can't see everyone. The more people, in my opinion, the more people we have, the more people we're going to reach, the more voices will be heard, and I think that's very important. And specifically, this position in what this committee is meant to do.
That's actually what I was looking for, is like what you were opinion, like that was mostly going to drive it.
I can see it.
Well, yeah, just because like where you're the person that's here for both sides and seeing both angles of it, like we can have our own perspectives, but I'm sitting on this side of the table from my perspective as an adult that's going to the meeting, not from a student that's been like a part of both, So,
yeah.
I guess my question off of Dawn's comment, do you feel like you would not be able to have as open a conversation if it was a larger meeting? I guess is my question I would pose to you all as students.
I think the hard part is we've all learned a valuable lesson that when you're here, you have to watch your words. And you have to watch how you word things, because sometimes the way you just word it, it just comes out wrong.
You mean like there's no drama in high school?
Mr. Brody made a comment to me about that today. So I feel like, and it's hard because sometimes there's different audiences and there's different people. I know personally, my comfort depends on the people there. So sometimes if I have a bunch of people looking at me, then I'm a little more conservative with my ideas and don't really speak up as much as I think you guys would want me to. I don't know about the rest of them. I can't say anything against what your guys' opinions are, so. Yeah.
I'd like to hear a little bit from that side, actually.
I don't know, I feel like it'd be probably the same.
And just remember, we don't know how many people are watching on the TV, too, so.
Way to put the pressure on Andrew. No, kidding. No, I mean it's a valid concern, and I guess that's why I'm asking what your thoughts are, because if you feel that these meetings are a forum for you to really express what you're thinking about what this committee is doing, then that's a pretty strong argument to keep the 5 meetings. If, though, you're like, I would like to know a little bit more about what the work of the committee is at a larger, and get more into it like Andrew has over the year, and you're not, if you're not the chair of this committee, but you still want to know. I mean, obviously nothing prevents you from coming to a school committee meeting. You'd always have a seat at the table. There wouldn't be an issue. But if you wanted it to be more formalized, I guess, so that you are getting a packet like you did, and that all of that is included and you're participating, I guess that's my question. And that's where I'm putting it. So I will leave it, I guess, to the committee. I mean, again, we're not voting on this tonight. It's kind of a first look, so I guess we could kind of chew on this a little.
Did we end up coming from that side of the table? And no offense, Silas, but you're out here. So, did you get your feedback?
I said it would be about the same.
Okay, sorry.
And Mariel,
Mariel
she
did too,
nodded,
sorry.
yeah.
I was looking down, so I didn't see the nod. I just, again, I love you, Silas, but you won't be here next year.
All right, so I guess we've we've got some consideration there, but if anybody has thoughts and, you know, you go home and you think a little bit more about it, email and let us know, and we'll go from there. All right? Okay. Thank you all. Next, what is it, Monday night? At 7 p.m. we have the Student Advisory Council School Committee drop-in. It's our quarterly drop-ins that we do via Zoom. Andrew will be there with, I believe, Dan and Matt to discuss the superintendent's evaluation, the Student Advisory Committee, and what was the, don't you have a third? Do you have a third? Or am I making that up?
That was mostly what
Sherry's
the
shaking her head.
No?
advisory council does, and then the evaluation process.
That's what, yes, that's what I meant, I'm sorry, the evaluation process. Okay, so tune in, you can come live, yes?
One of them, if one of them expressed interest, would they be allowed to also come with me?
Of course, it's open to anybody, so if you want to click that Zoom link and join in, the more the merrier. I think the first one, Brian and I had one person from the public. The one Dawn and I did about the budget, I don't think we had anybody from the public in that one, but we do record them, and they go up on the website for families and citizens and all stakeholders to view. So there you go. All right. Next, Student Advisory Committee election plan for 24-25. So I just wanted to talk with you guys while you're here, and again, I did have the law, because you guys are mandated by Mass General Law to be a committee. But that also does mean there are rules about how you are elected, and this year we kind of did it a little different because it was the first year, but because you've been established for a year, I kind of would like to start kind of getting into the routine for it. So in the second paragraph of Mass General Law, Chapter 71, Section 38M, it does state that members of such student advisory committee shall, by majority vote, prior to the first day of June in each year, elect from their number a chairperson who shall serve a term of 1 year. That chairperson shall be an ex officio, non-voting member of the school committee without the right to attend executive sessions unless such right is expressly granted. So, it is April, and we need that done by June. So is there anything we can do to help support you guys in getting this election going? Do you feel like you can get an election up and going with the help of your advisor, Mr. Brody?
I can kind of make comment towards that. We actually had another meeting today, so we will have the election. Sorry, I don't know why that word blanked. We will be having an election before June 1st. We're hoping to get the word out through, we do the class elections. Yep. We help to run those. So we're hoping to kind of get some more notice out through that, and then gain a lot more people, hopefully, and get them to basically vote for an election, gain more people, and
Yep.
yeah.
And the vote really is just to vote for the chairperson, it says.
Yes.
So, you know, if you guys stay on, the three of you are like on as the chair, that is really what needs to be elected as this reads. So,
Doesn't the committee have to be elected by the student body?
the members of such student advisory committee shall, by majority vote, prior.
In the first paragraph where it says, with the student advisory committee to consist of 5 members to be composed of students elected by the student body.
Yes, but that doesn't necessarily need to happen by June 1st. The chair has to be elected because graduation, I think, is why they make it June 1st, because it's probably a majority of the chairs are seniors. I believe the committee itself can be elected. I mean, if we want to make it both, but that doesn't have a date on it. The chair has the date.
Why wouldn't it be synonymous? Because don't you want people who are elected to the committee?
I'm fine with it being synonymous. I'm just going by the law and what it's written. So I mean, if you want to interpret, I don't know that it would be interpreted that way, but
Because what would happen if a person is elected as the chair and then they're not elected to the committee.
That can't happen.
Once you're in, it's not a re-election every year?
It doesn't state that. It
There's
only
no-
states the chair is the one-year term.
The chair's the only one with a term, the others don't have a term.
So they are on,
Once you're in, you're in.
And you can't be the chair unless you're on, because the whole school doesn't vote on chair, the actual committee votes on chair.
So what is the term of the members?
Forever, until they graduate.
Once they're elected, they're elected forever?
That's what,
unless,
according to the law.
according to the law, yes.
Unless you have like bylaws that are different.
Not yet.
Well, I guess, I don't know what your bylaws say.
I don't think they have bylaws.
Yeah,
Not
I
really.
don't
Can
think.
I ask a silly question though?
Yeah.
Would they need a quorum to vote for the chair?
Well, theoretically, this group of 5 could elect the chair for next year, as long as it's not Andrew or Silas, because he won't be here. But they would be able to vote theoretically if they wanted to. And then in the fall, when they could have elections for the 2 open seats, or do it the way they did it. I mean, this says election, so you would probably want to elect, say there's 2 open seats who would like to be elected, and then bring in 2 new people. I mean, if you wanted to do it, because there is no timing on that election for the committee as a whole, I mean, yes, you could do it at the same time if you wanted and bring those people in ahead of Silas and Andrew graduating and,
If I can add,
Yeah.
we don't necessarily have rigid bylaws. We do have an old constitution that that kind of outlines roles and how we run things. And in that constitution, there is a role that we kind of did an overhaul on the whole constitution, but there was a role for someone that would shadow the president at meetings, and that would not be guaranteed to be president next time, but would kind of be available for that role and have all the experience. I think personally, I would be more I don't want to say I'd be more comfortable. I think it would be more beneficial for the school committee and the student advisory committee if the president was someone with experience at meetings such as this and familiar with school committee regulations. That I'd rather have that election be first to elect the chair first. I don't know why I said president before, but have a chair that would have experience rather than someone that might not have. So I think that election of chair before a general election would make more sense.
and theoretically, the 2 seats that you fill, you could get a freshman and a sophomore, you know, like,
We could get anyone.
you really could get, I mean, you could even extend it to 7th and 8th grade if you wanted to.
I don't think there's any rule against. I think they have to be allowed to do that. If they really want to, I think they have to be allowed
I
to
believe
run.
so, and I mean, you also have that resource too of the other student advisory reps, that if
Yeah.
you wanted to reach out and see how they're doing it, I mean, you could reach out and say, hey, it's coming up on election time, anyone got tips for our first election? But, you know, to Mr. Meyer's point, like, if you wanted to do, I hear what you're saying, Andrew, and that makes sense to me, but to Don's point, if you wanted to have both elections, and that way you and Silas can help onboard those 2 new people as you're, you know, on your way to the next level, that might not be the worst thing either. I don't know. I'm just, again.
We have to find people who will come to the meetings first. We have there's 6 of us that include our 5.
Welcome to public service.
And we're like, do you want to come and do what you signed up to do?
Welcome to public service. I wish I could say it gets better as you get older, but yeah. So, any other thoughts or comments?
It just raises a question, what happens if one of you leave the school prior to the end of your term? Is there a provision for a special election, or someone else get appointed to the advisory committee?
I don't think any of us are
Yeah.
planning on leaving.
There's nothing in the law that
There's
gives
nothing
the
in
answer.
No, I know, that's where.
I would imagine they could
charter-
appoint someone if they wanted to.
I also don't think it
Or
has
that we
to
would-
be a rigid 5. I think the way that this is worded is it consists of 5 members to be composed of students elected by the student body. If they moved, they wouldn't be students of the student body. I don't think
Right.
there's any we could, in this outline of the law, we could hold a special election whenever we wanted, as long as there was an opening. So there is
Right,
legal
we're holding
framework.
a special election, right?
Yeah, the law does leave it pretty open-ended. And I have to wonder if they did that on purpose, which I'm going to say they might have, but it does leave a lot of loopholes.
Yep.
So, all right, so it sounds like you've got a plan for your election. Are you guys all comfortable with that plan? Good? Anything we can do to support you in this?
I just wanted to confirm, the only thing on the law that has to be, I'm not asking as like, I don't know how the laws work with like lawyers and stuff, but I'm just trying to ask, okay, so the only one with a deadline is June 1st for the chair, and they have to be elected by the people in the committee.
Yeah. That's how I read this. I mean, we can have Sarah look at it, or legally, but,
Because that's how we do it.
I mean, it's pretty straightforward. That's,
Yeah.
in that, I think if it was the whole committee, it would have said the whole committee needs to be elected, and I think the fact it singles out the chair for that June 1st date, but I'm not a lawyer either, full disclosure, so
Yeah.
I'm reading it like you are, as just a person reading legalese, but I think you're right.
Alright.
So, all right. Next, so moving on to kind of talking more, this goes back to like our meeting dates. Every year we have a summer retreat as a school committee, and Superintendent DeBoer and I were talking about inviting the student advisory committee to that, at least to the first 45 minutes. Andrew came to the whole thing last year. I hope you found it kind of interesting to see what.
It was very helpful.
Yeah, and it was kind of his first jumping into this group. But because you guys have been working with us for a year now, we thought maybe if we dedicated the first 45 minutes of our retreat to the student advisory committee being there also, that's where we as a school committee set our goals. We kind of look at what's coming up in the year and what we want to focus on and what we want to work on. I guess I'm just throwing that out there. If anybody has any strong feelings about not doing that, I don't see any disadvantages to having you there. Again, I think it's another chance for you guys to get more into what we do as a body. But I'll open that up to discussion.
I know I may or may not be able to come. I'm waiting for news if I'm away, so I won't know till June maybe. But I may or may not.
Yeah, because we tentatively have it for August 7th. So that's the date on that calendar. But again, not set in stone totally, because even us committee members don't always know. If we've had to move it before, we try not to, but we have had to. So, but that is good to know. And I don't know, Paige or Marielle, if you know if that, I know again, hard to see that far in the future, but do you think you would enjoy coming to that and participating?
Yeah.
Okay. Any of the committee have any thoughts on that?
It's a great idea.
May I just ask a
Yes.
question? When you said it's tentatively for the 7th, were you anticipating a daytime meeting or?
It's on here as 10 a.m. to 1 p.m.
So we can't do that. I can just put that out there right now.
Yeah, it's one of the leadership days, I believe.
It's a big group that is, those times.
Well, I didn't make this calendar. You guys did?
No, I don't know.
Do you think it would work
But,
for later in the day?
yeah, could it be like a 4 o'clock?
I mean, I won't lie. A weekday, I'm always going to like a later in the day thing because I can do some of my work day, but that's me. So
That was all. I just wanted to put it,
I
since you're
know-
all in the room.
I know Mr. Myers, though, is the opposite because of what he does for his career, so it might not work for him as well as it works.
But, you
And I don't know.
there are 5 of you.
There are 5, and
Regardless, I would have to alter my schedule, so one way or another, it's gonna not
Even
really
if
make.
it was in, like later.
Yeah, I would have to move stuff around, so we pick a date and we stick to it, and I think, at least on my end, I'll adjust.
I mean, yeah, adjustment is, there's time off for a reason, at least for my work, so it doesn't matter either way. If we need to move that date because you have leadership,
If you went back to sort of the 5 o'clock start where we could actually have the kids and then maybe have dinner with them and then do a little piece, like have a little break in between it.
so keep the day but change the time is what you're suggesting? I mean, I'm fine with that if.
I was about to put it on the district calendar as a tentative, but I stopped myself.
We're more important.
You're very important, but you're smaller than the group that we have coming in. They've already made their plans, so I'm really sorry. No,
It's
I feel terrible.
It's okay. Would an evening work? Would that plan work? I mean, I know you're still a
Yeah,
tentative,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm getting nods on the side.
I love the head.
Yes, I was like, sure. No, but he's like, you're gonna feed me?
I'll be packing for college or whatever I'm doing after graduation. All right, okay.
I'm gonna put it on the district calendar as tentative school committee retreat.
Okay.
Andrew can take my place.
It's a yeah, it's a public meeting.
It is a
Yeah,
public
Show
meeting.
up with some cookies.
Come.
Well, the bake off, yeah.
Oh.
I like it.
Madam Chair, I guess if we are going to consider evening time, personal preference, I think, would be not to start at the 5 o'clock, maybe slightly earlier to be able to
Okay.
get out a little bit earlier,
So, like what?
like a 4 to 7.
All right. Okay. This one is really just an informational piece. The next item, the Mashpee Charter Review Committee has been meeting and has formulated a charter review survey. And those of you who are 18 or older, or even not, if you're like in high school and want to take it, it does ask if you're a student in town. And eventually, hopefully, you'll be an engaged citizen. As our portrait of a graduate says you will be. But feel free to take the survey. It is open for a couple more weeks, I think. Mr. Myers may know the exact date because it's flown right out of my head and I looked it up earlier today and I already forget. But it is available. We would like to get, the Charter Review Committee is just trying to get some feedback. So if you're watching tonight, please, if you haven't already taken it, you can find that at our town website has it, but it also has a specific link, www.surveymonkey.com/r/M P charter.
And it's also on the agenda of tonight's
It
meeting,
is,
which
and you
is
can
on the
just
Mashpee.
click that link on the agenda if you go there to find it. But
That's for the viewing public.
yes.
Yeah.
Or just go to the town website and go to the charter review and you'll be able to find it.
Or go that route. Or it is on Facebook too, on the Mashpee Message. I believe it has been posted there as well.
I do not do Mashpee Message,
Well,
so I
for
will go to
those
the
who
town
do,
website. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we will be very grateful to those who take it. All right, that leads us to the end of our public meeting, and I will entertain, if you would like to close your meeting first.
We don't really have a roll call for roll call though.
You can take a motion if you want. You can, if you really want to do it, and take a motion. And
No, yeah, I'm just like, I know you guys do roll call, but it doesn't matter the order that names are called. Sorry, I want to make sure we do this.
I try to do it in order, but
Yeah.
it's all good. However you do it, you do it.
I'll take a motion from the Student Advisory Committee to end this, well, not to end, to adjourn this meeting.
Someone just has to say so moved. You gotta say
You
it.
gotta
So
make a motion.
You gotta either say so
Yeah, do
moved
thumbs
or.
up, sounds like- Say so moved.
So moved.
Alright, I'll entertain a second.
There you go.
Alright, I'll now take a roll call vote. Marielle? Silas?
Yes.
Paige?
Yes.
Eve?
Yes.
And I also am a yes.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate you guys being here. And I will entertain a motion to enter into executive session.